voices, and this is our Hot Topic segment. Before we get started, my name is Dr. Sharon Michael Chadwell, one of your hosts, and sitting with me today are my co-buddies, Chris Dawkins and Caleb Alexander. So we've got four interesting hot topics today. The first one is starting to pick up traction on TikTok, and that is a lot of missing black truck drivers. Have you guys heard about that?
No, only until we had our pre-production meeting and it was talked about.
Yeah. So what's happening is, well, we already know that a lot of these truck drivers drive through sundown towns. Mm-hmm. And one truck driver on TikTok was saying that he did go to a town and stopped off at a gas station in one of these sundown towns. And an older white woman who was behind the counter was really trying to get him in and out of there before a certain time. And so his truck wouldn't start. And so she went out back to the truck to see how he was coming along. She says, is there any way that you can get this truck out of here by such and such a time? And he got nervous because as the truck, I guess, started, a policeman was coming. But this woman did try to save his life because there's no telling what would have happened had that policeman and his buddies would have gotten hold of this particular truck driver. But evidently there's a lot going on and we're not hearing about it on mainstream media. Again, I saw it on TikTok and then I also did see something about it, like a little blurb in the news. So we've got one truck driver. His name is Jaon McGee. He's 21-year-old out of Chicago. And what happened, he was found dead in Henderson. He was driving from Chicago. And he was found dead.
Las Vegas?
Chicago?
No, where's Henderson?
North Carolina.
Okay.
And he was found there near his truck with a rope around his neck.
What?
Mm-hmm. And so McGee had just made a delivery to a Walmart distribution center, and the sheriff stated that there were, of course, no sounds of foul play and denied it was a lynching, though the family and community have raised serious concerns about the circumstances. So in this particular case, is gaining traction again on social media, with many questioning the official narrative and demanding a thorough investigation. And we already know that they usually say that there was no foul play when there are lynchings. It was accidental suicide or something like that. But this happened to this young man. And then another brother by his name of Eric Darnell, and this was, and he was driving from Birmingham, Alabama to another location, and his family said that he never made his drop off. Now his rig is empty and his phones hadn't pinged in a while. So he's missing. So something is going on out there, and I know that a lot of I've met a lot of black truck drivers, and I did not realize, you just don't think about it until you start reading about the dangers that they go through, especially when they go to these sundown towns. What say you guys?
That's very interesting to figure out. The one question I was going to ask you is, what about their load? What happens to their load?
Well, in this case,
I know you were just saying that one, his load was empty. So somebody else had to be involved. You can't just unload a semi-trailer by yourself. And then if it's empty, that means somebody took the stuff out. So does that mean these particular towns where people are sending loads to, first of all, are they getting to their intended person? Number one. And number two, if they're not, then not only do you have that, you also have a theft. And who's investigating that?
And this one truck driver I did listen to on TikTok, he was saying that the woman was trying to get him. This is Eric Darnell. he was saying that they are not allowed to leave their loads unattended. So, and she was trying to get him out of there. She says, ma'am, I can't leave my truck. I can't leave my load. She said, you got to get out of here. So she knew the danger that he was about to see. But he's alive to tell his story. But again, brothers, if you're out there truck driving, I did not realize how much danger there is. Hopefully this will pick up in the mainstream media. But in the meantime, you guys be careful out there.
And send us some comments if you know of anybody that this is happening to, or you're aware of this, or it's happened in your town or whatever. You even have secondhand knowledge. Please go to Black Video News Network and look for Contemporary Black Voices and leave us a message. We would like to know about these things that are going on. Sorry.
That's okay. Because this one shocked me. Because again, I know I just know truck driving.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
well, we might have to put our research team on this one.
You talking about me?
Don't tell all the secrets.
Okay, so Robert F. Kennedy Jr., we already know has questionable abilities of being in the position that he is in now. But he basically has canceled any race-based research related to medicine and health. And his overall statement is he feels that there are too many cancer screenings that are too woke. Too woke. So, and you know, and I saw this coming because of this anti-woke agenda that this administration has. But everybody has to understand that the bodies of African Americans are not the same as those as white Americans. And I'm saying white Americans in particular because most of the research, most of the pharmaceutical research has been tested on white Americans. And there's very few of us, probably because of the fear of Tuskegee, but very few of us participate in those studies. So a lot of the medications that were put in, they really don't know the long-term effect it has on black bodies.
So what's the lady's name? Lax?
Henrietta Lacks.
Henrietta Lacks. Okay. So the medical industry has somewhat proven, in my opinion, maybe I'm not in the medical industry, but I think they have proven that there are certain things that are happening, okay, or that have happened, that only can be revealed by using the black genes or the black body. So when this administration talked about, I'm assuming they're using the word woke to mean black, okay? So as opposed to using the word black, they use the word woke. And if they're saying that, all they're doing is, you know, we got to go through this process, but they're restricting the research that might save one of their people's lives.
I agree. And again, and of course, I'm seeing a lot of stuff. I'm diabetic, okay, and been on metformin for about 12 years now. I'm not sure whether or not there's a negative effect going on within me, but I'm starting to see more and more black doctors coming in on Facebook talking about alternative means of addressing diabetes. Now, I know that 4 years ago, when I was heavy into the triathlon world, that my numbers were, they were pitch perfect because I'm doing all that sweating, running, swimming, biking, everything else. And I kind of pulled back, because I had other things to do because of the training schedule. But these doctors are now coming out more and more saying, you need to look at this, you need to look at that. And I know they're trying to sell something. So let me see, I got to do, quote unquote, the research to see whether or not in this case, what are the benefits of honey for someone who's diabetic?
Well, let me ask this. My question is about this administration, and what? First of all, Kennedy, is he head of
Department of Human Services.
Department of Human Services? Man, that's terrible. Anyway, which the CDC falls under, right? So I just can't understand how they could be so short-sighted. They need the research, if for nothing else, to figure out, again, how to prevent the diseases within their own. And black folks you don't know if they got the cure or they've got some type of something in our genes which can be used, which again reverts back to me with the Henrietta Lack as to why, it's important because they're still using her genes to today.
And even if you go back into the field of gynecology, that field would not be existing today if it wasn't for the inhumane examination of black slave women back in the day. I mean, gynecology would not exist without those black women back in the slave days, where those doctors would come in and they were doing all kind of stuff to those women's body to see how much pain tolerance did these women have without anesthesia. Well, they weren't using any anesthesia. They were doing all kind of stuff. So our bodies, our cells, everything has been used in the pharmaceutical world and in the medical world. And the idea of them stopping race-based research to where I believe there's a cure for sickle cell. And there probably is a cure for sickle cell, but because of the pharmaceutical world, they're making more money off of any medical means of slowing it down, if you will.
Like cancer. I probably shouldn't admit this here, but I don't give no money to cancer. I'm saying, shit, if you done had this many billions of dollars that's been invested in cancer, Caleb, I ain't giving them no more damn money. Okay? If you can't solve it with what you already got, you ain't going to be able to solve it. But I believe they have solved it, but they're doing what you're saying is they're continuing to get money in to be able to. Anyway, I ain't going to go off on that tangent, but I ain't giving them no money.
Alzheimer's. Again, we all have gotten the notices, give to the Alzheimer's 5K run or whatever, right? But I believe that they're making money with those senior citizens in those nursing homes who are going up and down the halls trying to figure out who they are, what they are, and everything else. My father was in that situation. And they're making money off of that via Medicare, Medicaid, anything else, right? I believe that there could be a cure, but they're not going to allow that cure to come into play because it is a moneymaker. Alzheimer's, diabetes, any type of cancer you can think of, those are moneymakers.
Black people, I say to you, is if you're not making money off of a black male's race or some kind of medical thing that you're doing, these athletes and different people who are giving money to, the fight cancer and to fight this, I say right now, with the way everything else is going, you need to pull back and kind of wait and find out and see where things are going before you decide to do anything else. Because the issue to me is that they can be helpful by either providing money, but the administration is being detrimental to saying, we're not going to accept any of the research. We'll take your money, but we're not going to accept any of the research, especially the black colleges, because that to me is what they're talking about when they talk about the woke research. Woke research. Stupid.
Okay. So you guys know we live in Texas. Those of you who are aware, we've got several of our state legislatures in different states, Illinois, California. What's the third state? One other state.
Illinois?
Illinois, California, and one other state. Anyway, they're trying to, they have literally broke the quorum because Trump asked Abbott, who is the governor, he said, I need 5 seats. Just give me 5 seats. So they are literally redistricting or gerrymandering the state to where these 5 seats can happen. And what's happening is, we all know Jasmine Crockett. I'm going to use her. They called her office to find out, to verify her address, and then literally cut out her address within a half-mile radius to where she can't support the district that she lives in. My state representative is one of those as well. I was able to talk to them as well. So where am I going with this? It's interesting that this is going on at the same time that the Supreme Court is in the process of, I'm going to say, considering eliminating Section 2 of the Voting Act.
What is that?
Voting Rights Act. I'm going to read it. Now, this section of the Voting Rights Act has been a pet project of a Black colored person by the name of Clarence Thomas.
Oh my God.
To eliminate it. So let me read the section for you. Section 2 says, prohibits any voting practice or procedure that results in the denial or abridgment of the right to vote based on race, color, or membership in a language minority group. It applies nationwide and is permanent unless other parts of the act that require periodic renewal. So, and I'm not an attorney. I'm not even going to try to interpret all of this, but I do know this for sure based on that act that we're seeing Section 2 being violated right now with this gerrymandering that's going on. And it's interesting, now some Republicans, because New York, Minnesota, Washington State, and California, and maybe a couple other states are saying, you know what, we got enough folks in this state to where we can gerrymander all day long. And you want to take 5 seats, we got 9 on standby over here to take. And in New York City, there's so many people there alone in just that one city, they can break up New York City into several seats. So now the Republicans are saying, you know what, maybe we need to make gerrymandering illegal. That's how a lot of Republicans even got to where they are today through the redistricting efforts that their legislature has done. But now the Supreme Court will more than likely, and I pray it doesn't happen, will make this, erase this.
Wow. Well, I keep saying this, and, America's gone. We've lost America. And the sad part for me is I talk to several young people all the time. I just spoke to a child of 17 is going to turn 18 November 1st, and very close to me. And I said, I have one requirement. And they said, well, what is that? I said, you register to vote. And they don't want to register to vote. So, it's very difficult to win. Even in this climate, you've got people who are not interested in voting, and people are cleaning our clock every day, by this stuff. So America's gone.
And, and a lot of our young people don't understand this. They don't understand how racism works in this country. The reason why we are constantly fighting is because nothing, when slavery was made, they said, you guys are free, go be free. So there was never a 40 acres or a mule given to those slaves. And we had to fight tooth and nail for everything and anything we got. And
when you got it, they took it away from us.
Yeah, look at Fred. Here we go. Look at
Black Wall Street.
Black Wall Street and all of the other Black Wall Street communities that were burned down. We pulled ourselves up for our bootstrap to try to make a way. We had folk walking across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Mississippi.
We were segregated.
Segregate.
Yeah, we stayed in our neighborhood. They stayed in there. Well, they didn't like that, so they came up. I'm saying, what the hell are we supposed to do?
And so we got, President Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act.
Right.
When Martin Luther King was still alive.
Right.
And I'm saying our young folks don't understand that everything we had, even today, even to be sitting in this show today, where we had to fight for that ability, that right to do so. And so I've always told, you always cherish the things that were fought for the hardest. And so now I could call off several YouTube influencers that I'm very disappointed, but I'm not going to give them that attention. But you misguided these folks. I will say this: you did misguide these folks to where.
Who misguided who?
Several black YouTube influencers.
Okay.
They just misguided our young folk to where they don't understand. They're not reading it, and you've got to read. You've got to read to put everything in the context. Yes, I think all of us in this room would love to have reparations. But sitting home, not voting because I didn't get my reparations, now look where we are. Everything that your ancestors fought for is about to get blown up.
Yeah, it's kind of like the reverse of reparations. Instead of getting reparations, they taking shit away from you.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
That's fine. Caleb?
No, I agree.
You agree?
I agree 100%. Everything that's been said.
And my son came over to the house and said, he was just shaking his head. He says, Mama, I cannot believe that we could literally lose our voting right.
Right.
I said, yep. And he says, what can we do? What can I do? I said, right now, I don't know.
There's nothing you can do because we don't have in the system from a democracy standpoint, we don't have the number of votes that we need to be able to do anything. The best thing that can happen right now is what the Texas legislature is doing is by withholding a quorum. That is the only thing that can be done. And they are trying to force us now to get those people back in their seat so that they can vote. But the question is that they're not going to come back until the governor ends the session. Once the governor ends the session, if he starts another session, then they will leave again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only thing that you can really do. You don't have anybody I shouldn't say anybody, but we don't control the House. So you don't have enough people in the House that can maybe, and I'm talking about U.S. out, where they can leave and cause a problem there. But the Texas example right now is what should be looked at.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Gavin Newsom said, we're going to fight. This is how, we were looking for, you can't go to a gunfight with a slingshot.
That's right.
Okay. The next topic. Book bans, not hiring black teachers. Our kids are experiencing multiple areas of microaggression, from hair pulling, talking about the color of the skin, slowly told, teachers maybe saying you're not as smart as you think you are, all is going on. And what's happening is that the Black-led progressive homeschool network is on the rise amid all these issues. And I have to say, I'm proud of these parents. My niece was in a public school. I'm gonna go ahead and say in a predominantly all-white community. She was struggling, and then they went ahead and pulled her out, and she was homeschooled. I went to her graduation. Several of the black kids who were homeschooled, there were a lot of kids at that graduation who were black and homeschooled. And so, parents, you're going to have to really start watching. If you're going to have them in, and I'm a public ed former teacher and product of public ed, but you really going to have to pay attention to what the curriculum is about. Go ahead and do, I call them drive-by walkthroughs schools to see what's going on, because our kids, and I'm not saying all teachers are like this, I'm not saying it, but there's enough tension in many of these schools to where our kids, where we place our kids is now going to be critical for their educational experiences.
So, time out. My feeling from a radical standpoint is, when are we going to, as a people, demand more of ourselves? Okay? What I mean by that is that you've got to have education. We cannot continue to send our kids someplace to be educated by our captor. I just don't see it. The bottom line is that you could do homeschool, but everybody can't homeschool. So what about these churches you are always talking about? We have got, when I say we, I'm talking about all of the people. We have got to demand that something be done, and be done for ourselves.
Well, I'm not going to talk about church schools right now, because that's kind of a sore subject with me right now.
Okay.
But I do believe that churches, especially Black churches, you've got the facilities to have these homeschool networks housed in those halls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've got some retired teachers. Pay them a little money to help monitor those systems, especially if the parents are still trying to keep a job.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that can be done. And the reason why I'm talking about the Black churches, because I'm not seeing a lot of our Black churches really push the envelope on issues like this. You've got the facilities. Go ahead, turn that area into a school.
This is why I always, when I have a chance to promote the Nation of Islam, they are the only ones that I know that have their own schools, that are doing their own things. I mean, you got a couple places like in Atlanta, you might have some Black schools or whatever, but I don't necessarily see those around the country. So we have got to do something for ourselves, and we've got to demand that something be done for ourselves. But we've got to have the people who are willing to get together to demand of ourselves. Forget about what the white man ain't doing for us and all that kind of stuff. Do it for ourselves.
I know that I talked to a former principal and also an attorney. I believe she's setting up an advocate network of people who can, and I'm not saying mom and dad, you can't do this, but sometimes you need people who know what they're talking about in those rooms with you to go advocate for the kids, especially if you don't know the language, especially those kids who are in special education. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say this. Again, my son tried to pull a fast one. He figured out that kids in special education, oftentimes, the work is reduced to meet their needs. Okay? So my son, I'm going to give him, he critically thought about this. He decided that he needed to pull back so he can get less work. And they put him in special ed. So after watching that little joker, I said, no. Curtis is not special needs. So I went and sat in a meeting with other teachers. I said, take him out, because you can't do that. You can't do that. Your child does not have to sit in special ed, but you can have him pulled out, if need be, okay? I said, take him out. If he needs to flunk, let him flunk. Just let him flunk. I said, but the reason why he's in there is because he has studied this whole situation. He noticed that these kids are getting less work, and he didn't want to do the work. Make him do the work. I said, flunks and flunks. So I signed off on the paper and went back to work. But the point I'm trying to say is because I knew that system.
Right.
And so parents, find retired teachers if you need someone to advocate for your child to go to these meetings, because sometimes that language is so, it's more for the educators than the parents. Just ask. Okay, we got one more. Now, this last topic is about, Trump fired I can't think of this, he fired a woman who was over the Labor Bureau.
Oh,
she gave out those statistics, okay?
Yeah.
Well, since January 20th, 300,000 plus black women have lost their jobs.
She wasn't black, was she?
No, but I'm giving these stats pertaining to us.
Okay.
300,000 plus black women have lost their jobs.
And how many black people, period? I mean, a lot of them are government workers, and you may not have the numbers or statistics, but there's a lot of black people that's been let go.
Well, I think the reason why I'm bringing this topic up, because a lot of there were more black women in some of those federal jobs than men, and a lot of those women were single parents.
Right.
They were just there. I'm not saying, and men, you can say, well, what about the men? What about the men? I don't have any stats on the men right now. I'll bring it in here next week. But for right now, we got 300,000 black women out there who may not have a job.
Sounds like some of them need to start a private school.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I see. If they want to make some money, they can, because there's a lot of, like you said, they don't have jobs. They know you're given the statistic of all these people who don't have or have lost their jobs and might be single parent. They need to have their kids raised properly and educated properly.
Mm-hmm. You've been quiet. What you got to say about all this?
No, I'm gonna take it in. So, but no, I think that is an alarming statistic. And me, I don't put anything past this administration. So I think everything that they do is by design. Every single thing that they've done is by design.
As haphazard as it seems, yes, it's by design.
I think a lot of it is
yeah.
And I think that they are aware of the statistics as far as black women and them being the most educated demographic in the country. I'm sure they keep hearing that statistic. You always see races on social media trying to refute this statistic, but I think this administration is well aware of it. And I think if you want to attack black economics, you really attack the black household, you attack the black woman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, so I have all of my hot topics. You want to bring up one more?
No.
Yeah, you do.
No,
Mr. Sanders.
I just want to tell people, just keep your eyes out for the Cleveland Browns and what they're doing or not doing with Shadur Sanders. He had a great game yesterday, preseason game. Now, most folks don't put any faith or anything in a preseason game, but as a depth chart, he was number 4 on the depth chart, but they decided to start him, and they started him. The team had no turnovers. They won by 30-10, and it was just a magnificent performance for a team coming out of the gate. So the question becomes was Shadur Sanders being in the 5th round, number 57 or whatever it was as a pick, did he deserve to go there? And does he deserve a spot on the Cleveland Browns? He still may not be the best quarterback, but he made a hell of a showing last night. So I just ask folks to keep tuned, and hopefully that topic will come up later on. But this week is a hot topic is Shadur Sanders.
And you'll never hear me talking about sports because I'll get it all messed up. So these two will have to talk about sports hot topics. So with that being said, before we sign off, do you got something you want to say?
Yeah, just one more thing. So we need to keep our eye out on the Trump administration and what they're doing as far as all those secret mineral deals that they're doing in Africa. We need to keep an eye on that. Definitely. And so they're engaging what I consider to be pimp diplomacy right now. So they're pulling
You
up
said
to
pimp
diplomacy.
Pimp
So
diplomacy.
they are taking advantage of smaller nations that are not as powerful and forcing them to take prisoners in exchange for mineral deals and all kind of concessions and stuff like that. We really need to keep an eye on that. The other thing is just what I know we had talked earlier about genetics and about research and specific research toward Black people. Let me tell you something. They are in Africa researching, and don't take my word for it. Don't listen to me. Google COVID and Ethiopia and how Ethiopia fared during COVID. And then you'll understand why they are over there researching and pulling genes from Ethiopians and researching Ethiopian genetics.
That's woke.
No. No. Every major research and pharmaceutical companies over there. It got so bad that the Ethiopians had to pass laws protecting their genetics and stopping people from taking their DNA. That's how bad it got. They want
Ethiopia and COVID. We need to Google that.
Google how COVID affected Ethiopia
Okay.
and why, and
Good
you
tip.
mind blown.
Good tip.
Mind blown. So just a little bit about when we talk about genetics. They want Kennedy's an idiot and doesn't fully understand.
Right.
But the people who do understand, the scientists and everything, they want our genetics. They want our DNA, and they are studying our DNA to the fullest. There's no continent, no place on earth that's more biodiverse than Africa, more genetically diverse than Africa. They're after our DNA, and they're studying us and researching us and all kinds of stuff. But just Google that.
I want to step back just real quick. I know we're way over time, but I wanted to ask about, you brought up mineral rights, and the two things I wanted to ask you is, one is, why can't some of the more powerful nations in Africa work with the smaller nations so that they're not prey? That's number one. Number two is, where is Nigeria in their political plan with America?
Tough question. We out of time. We out of time.
Okay.
You gotta hit me with that one next week, and I'll explain what's going on. But they're telling the Trump administration no on certain things. South Africa's telling them no. Ghana is strong enough telling them no.
But I don't hear Nigeria saying that.
Nigeria's saying no because they're trying to get Nigeria to take prisoners as well.
Okay.
Nigeria's telling them no.
Okay.
You know what I mean? We're not a dumping ground for your.
Right.
So there are certain African nations that are standing up to them.
Okay.
But a lot of the, some of the other ones are who don't have the ability to stand up to them are being pressured to take American prisoners and to engage in trade deals that are completely unfair trade deals. They're putting the pressure on them as far as tariffs and sanctions and threatening them, all kinds of stuff. So they're forcing them into these deals. It's really guerrilla pimping diplomacy.
Guerrilla pimping. He went from one to guerrilla pimping. Okay.
But anyway,
look, Caleb is a very good source on Africa, and I hope that one day we can do a whole show based on that and finding out where we fit in all of this, because the global majority is us. I'll leave it there.
And before we go off, we want to thank our producer, Mr. Carl Booker, for putting this show together with us and tolerating us. And we also want to thank you, our listeners, and especially those of you who leave comments, because that kind of gives us an idea as to what you're thinking. Even the negative comments, they can become a point of reflection for many of us. But we want to thank you for the comments as well. And with that being said, this is Contemporary Black Voices, Hot Topics, where we tell our stories our way.
Cool.